This man stabs his wife and hits her with hot frying pan for no reason. Patricia, a married lady, is shown in the movie's opening scene cooking in the kitchen. She appears to be having a typical day, but she has no idea that her entire world is about to completely change. David, her spouse, unexpectedly shows up in the kitchen, appearing agitated, and requests that she flee. Patricia is visibly confused by this and looks at him in shock. David then loses it and stabs Patricia viciously and beats her with a hot pan. Unfortunately, David oddly claims it's not him before stabbing her repeatedly with a sharp knife, taking her life as a child is shown being kept in a place that resembles a cage. Subsequently, we learn via a podcast that David is found in possession of the murder weapon when the police arrive at the site. His expression is expressionless as he stares at his wife's lifeless body. After searching the residence, the cops find something horrible. Michal, David's daughter, is imprisoned in a space that resembles a cage and appears to have been without sunlight for a long time. David would not stop talking about how someone was in charge of him. He is known as the puppet murderer. In addition, he receives a death by lethal injection sentence. Now, the action jumps ahead to the present. Now that she's a college student, Michal lives with her best buddy Charlie in the same room. They have just completed listening to a viral podcast about Michal's father. Michal can't even recall how it happened, but she hasn't been able to move past her horrific history as his execution date draws near. She still finds it difficult to accept that her father is a heartless murderer. Charlie, her flatmate, finds Michal's life extremely fascinating, despite the fact that it is highly disturbing. Her investigation reveals that when the police detained Michal's father, they discovered occult books. Although Michal is clearly irritated by this allegation, she chooses not to respond because Charlie is her closest friend. We get to know their college pals Glenn, the brash gym rat, and Joe, a medical student. Danny, Michal's boyfriend, is another. As the semester draws to a close, they intend to host a modest, covert party one evening on the dorm rooftop. Charlie's thoughts about the puppet killer won't go away. She even starts investigating in private whether Michal has any of her father's habits. That week, David, Michal's father, is scheduled to receive a fatal injection, so Charlie dedicates a significant portion of her day to reading and analyzing the various articles that have been published about the case. Michal, in the meantime, can never get over the nightmare about the day she was a tiny child and Charlie woke her up when she was sleepwalking. It turns out that she has experienced this nightmare before, which results in her sleepwalking and her always drawing 3 mysterious lines on the wall with her wounded hand. In addition, her scratching habit resulted in this wound, and the symbol is the same one she sees in her dreams on a regular basis. Over the next few days, Michal sees something strange. There are a lot of black ravens all about her wherever she goes. This suggests that a really negative event is about to occur. Despite the fact that they are juveniles, they manage to purchase a large amount of booze when they visit a nearby liquor store. Subsequently, Danny goes with Michal to her room but stays outside before bidding her farewell and leaving. After that, Michal is by herself in her room when she hears messages appearing on Charlie's laptop. She chooses to investigate after her curiosity gets the better of her. She finds a folder full of films of herself sleepwalking, which shocks Michal. Charlie records her checking a handful of them every night, which she eventually starts doing on a regular basis. Charlie enters the room at that precise moment and is shocked to see Michal using her laptop. Charlie defends herself by claiming that she did the recordings for her safety and that she was always there to help when the other person questions her about them. Michal is also given the assurance by her that she has kept it a secret from other people. Michal, Charlie, and their pals Joe, Glenn, and Danny get together for a party on the roof of their dorms at night. Everyone appears to be having a great time at first as they exchange stories and set new resolutions. However, Glenn talks about Michal's father and her sleepwalking habit unintentionally when he becomes quite inebriated. Our girl is shocked to learn that Charlie has revealed personal information about her life. Michal is not buying it when the latter repeats her denial that she was merely attempting to assist. Charlie, though, is instantly immobilized, as though something has taken control of her. She keeps saying she can't move, but her buddies think she's just acting that way. Charlie walks backwards and falls off the terrace, which exacerbates the situation. Her friends are rendered absolutely dumbfounded by what they have just witnessed, and she passes away instantly. Michal is shown discussing Charlie's death with the investigating officer in the following scene. She says that she was the reason Charlie had terror in her eyes before to her falling. She seemed to be terrified by Michal. We witness what appears to be a group of ravens following Michal as she makes her way home. Michal finds it impossible to sleep that night because she is so terrified by the black ravens that keep breaking through her window, one after another. Days go by, and her friends start to worry more and more about her. Since Danny appears to be the most impacted, he makes the decision to see how she is doing. After knocking on her door in her dorm and getting no response, he chooses to wait for her outside of her room. After several hours, he finally nods off. But he wakes up in the middle of the night with a loud thud. The door is open, and he sees that no one is in the room. Danny recognizes in an instant that Michal is sleepwalking once more, so he dashes up to the terrace and spots her leaning over. Luckily, he stops her before she can make the leap. Charlie's mother then tells the group that Charlie once met on a regular basis with a psychic named Ruby. She extends an invitation to visit her home so they may talk about a crucial matter. Although the gang is a little skeptical, they embrace it nonetheless because they need answers badly. Michal is initially instructed to wait in the living room while Ruby breaks the devastating news to the others. She says that when she was afraid, Charlie used to come see her. She replies, Michal, when the group asks what she was afraid of. Michal discovers a book in the living room named The Cult of Dolos in the meantime. She frequently sees it in her nightmares, and it has the same symbol on the cover that Michal paints with her blood when she has awful dreams. At that very moment, the psychic summons her to her chamber to ascertain the reality behind Charlie's demise. Ruby guides them as they perform a séance. They may now get in touch with Patricia, Michal's late mother, thanks to this. They think she is privy to important facts regarding Charlie's terrible death. Ruby is unexpectedly taken over by a spirit during the séance, forcing her to write a chilling confession. Charlie was slain by me. Michal is completely shocked by what she saw. Then, furious, she demands to know the spirit's identity. And Ruby appears to be terrified of her. Ruby is once more taken over by the ghost, and she writes, I am Michal, much to her distress. Michal finds it difficult to accept that she killed her best buddy after realizing this. Only Danny, among her three pals, accepts what Ruby has shown them. Charlie was the first victim of something Michal seemed to have inside of her since she was starting to become a problem. Later, on Charlie's laptop, Jo discovers something shocking. She discovers that Charlie and Ruby were connected in some way by the book The Cult of Dolos. Michal starts sleepwalking again at that point. Her design is more peculiar than normal this time. Her pals see this happening from a distance and eventually come to the conclusion that something evil is happening. Jo, who has always denied this nonsense, gets so interested that she meets with the psychic in secret and takes the book from her. Ruby forewarns her that Michal cannot be aware that Jo possesses this book. She then invites Glenn and Danny over so they can work together to uncover the mystery. But, Glenn is preoccupied with his workout equipment, so he disregards her message. Jo chooses to look into the situation herself, but Danny is unable to come at this time because he is with Michal and has no other options. At night, she goes to a quiet library and starts reading the book by herself. Jo looks over its contents. Finds out about a terrifying ritual that combines light and evil, innocence and sin, to call a wicked monster into the earth. Those who plot against the demon will submit to him and give up control. Jo is a little alarmed by this and phones Ruby to find out whether they're in danger. But it's too late now. Jo no longer has control over her own body because the devil has already taken over her. Jo is forced by the devil to stab herself with a pen and drop the cigarette she was smoking. The book then catches fire as a result of the fall. Her face is finally drawn towards the flames, and she dies from terrible burns. At the gym, Dolo abruptly gains control over Glenn's physique at the same time, forcing him to add heavier weights on his lifting bar. Then, because the bar is really heavy, the unfortunate guy sits beneath it against his will and tries to lift it. His face is shattered as he meets a horrible end. They don't even know their pals had been killed when Danny brings Michal to visit her father in jail. After all these years, the father and daughter pair finally get together, but their relationship is difficult. Michal questions him right away about why he killed her mother, but he responds that he didn't. Michal was not the one controlling him. There was another person. Then he discloses that in order to obtain the demon's power years prior, he and Patricia took part in the ceremony detailed in the book. But they also included a young Michal by offering her blood, as it needed a combination of sin and purity. After the ceremony was finished, Dolos was taken down to earth. Patricia wished to surrender her body, but Michal's body was selected as the vessel by the demon after tricking Patricia. The father continues, saying he heard Michal whisper to him just before he killed Patricia, telling him to take the knife and stab her. This explains Charlie's expression when she looks at Michal, which is fear of him before she dies. She is rendered utterly dumbfounded at hearing all of this. In addition, Michal is the demon. The demon will experience the same level of wrath as Michal. Later, as they make their way back to the dorm, Danny tries to console a distraught Michal, but he is stopped from touching her by an unseen force. The police then phone to inform him that 2 of his buddies had passed away. After receiving the shocking news, Michal begins to despise herself and advises Danny to avoid her in order to save his life. She descends into depression while Michal is at a loss for what to do to stop this lunacy. She makes the decision to take her life at one point, but then all of the fast cars on the road abruptly stop to allow her pass, causing another unusual incident to happen. And if it wasn't enough, Michal looks for more options. She plans to leap off a bridge after getting up. Danny, who is looking for her, sees the evil spirit inside of her. Dolos threw her back to the bridge to stop her from making such a bold move. Danny notices her suffering and calls Ruby, the only one who can save them. Sadly, at this point even the psychic has grown afraid. She is afraid that Dolos will learn about her and kill her after hearing Danny's narrative. As a result, Ruby begins to assert that all of her previous statements were false. She even gives their money back, claiming to have acknowledged her error. The 2 leave the location to look for other answers after realizing they are now on their own. Ruby immediately gives Al, the chief detective, a call to let him know what's going on. Subsequently, throughout their journey home, the creature residing within Michal questions what Ruby handed him. But Danny tells her it's not really a big deal. Dolos, the devil, takes over Danny as he realizes that he is hiding something. It forces the unfortunate guy to shatter his own fingers. Danny pulls out the cash Ruby gave him out of nowhere. We also notice that she left him some cautionary messages, which Danny is told to read on her behalf by the devil. While Michal watches all of this happen, he forces Danny repeatedly slam his head against the driving wheel. However, she is powerless to step in. Since the monster inside of her doesn't want anyone to know about their secret, she is aware that she is the one who is to blame for this. Danny ends up being Delasla's newest victim. Shaken by her closest friend's passing, Michal visits the police station covered in blood. When a policeman inquires, "What's the deal?" she claims to have killed numerous individuals. Then she insists that he shoot her right away. Unfortunately, Dolos seizes possession of the cop's body and murders him as he is thinking about what to do. As more police arrive on the scene, Michal is seen smiling because he knows that the cops will put an end to her life and all of this chaos. However, they all abruptly suffer the same end. Subsequently, Detective Al comes up behind Michal and uses a tranquilizer to render her unconscious. After that, he drives her to Ruby's home. After doing some study, the psychic discovers that Dolos is at ease whenever the vessel is put to sleep. Ruby knows the detective will be dead before he pulls the shot, but he wants to shoot her in the head immediately. Because even if Michal is unconscious, the devil is nonetheless mindful of its surroundings. Ruby comes to the conclusion that they must locate a new host in the end. Since they need to know what to do, Ruby is aware that there is still a part of Michal who truly wants to live her life. Ruby gives her some words of support to keep fighting and places a pen and paper next to her in the hopes of receiving a response. And, sure enough, Michal begins to write. She claims to have a strategy in mind. Long ago, her father desired to become the demon's vessel, now was the time to fulfill his wish. He will be put to death anyhow, so they won't need to worry about him. Ruby is aware that their strategy carries some risk, but it is their best option. David's last day on Earth is tomorrow morning. In a few hours, he will be put to death. Michal encounters him before that. She asks him to take the demon with him, telling him that it is currently asleep. David, who is quite fond of his daughter, concurs. He is willing to face the vicious demon head-on in order to secure his daughter's freedom. With Ruby's assistance, the two take a hand and start the ceremony. After that, the picture switches to David being strapped to a chair during his execution. From outside, Ruby and Michal watch tensely, praying that all goes according to plan. However, it appears like the demon has already entered David's body and is waking up from his sleep at that moment. David causes the medical professional giving the injection to lose bodily control. Even yet, the doctor is able to give David the fatal injection, which results in his death. Ruby and Michal ultimately rejoice that they have vanquished the demon at the end. However, the film leaves us with unanswered questions. Dolos is not dead yet. When Michal smiles menacingly,